The case studies presented here are for educational purposes based on hypothetical scenarios. They do not represent specific tax or legal advice. Individuals facing IRS notices should consult a qualified enrolled agent, CPA, or attorney before taking action. The IRS collection apparatus does not negotiate, and it does not pause. It is a relentless, automated system tracking every taxpayer with unyielding precision. This sequence initiates when the algorithm flags specific data discrepancies, unfiled returns, an unpaid tax balance, or missed payroll deposits. The system translates these mathematical discrepancies into physical output. It arrives as a stack of standard envelopes, flooding a taxpayer's mailbox with sequential demands. Within that sequence lies the CP502 notice. This document is the IRS's second demand for payment. Initial delinquency letters ask for compliance. The CP502 abandons that posture. It is a structural pivot where the institution stops asking and starts warning. For a tax practitioner, the arrival of this specific document marks the final optimal window for proactive representation before the collection sequence locks into involuntary enforcement. The intervention margin is exceptionally tight. A taxpayer has exactly 10 days from the notice date to respond and halt the automated progression. We will map the exact chronological sequence of these notices, deconstruct the statutory language of the CP502 itself, and examine the precise intervention protocols required to protect assets. Ignoring the CP502 guarantees a severe financial outcome. Halting the escalation requires an immediate system override. This timeline illustrates the Collection Statute Expiration Date, or CSED. The IRS has exactly 10 years from the date of a tax assessment to legally collect the debt. The delinquency cycle initiates here, with the CP501 notice. When this initial demand is ignored, the system logs the non-response. 30 days of inaction following that first notice automatically generates the CP502. The system escalates the taxpayer's status. If the strict 10-day deadline on the CP502 expires without contact, the algorithm advances directly to CP503, the final demand. Past that point, the sequence accelerates into direct enforcement territory, issuing notices of intent to levy through the CP504 and CP505. The cycle culminates in the LT11. At this stage, the government executes its authority to seize wages, bank accounts, and physical property. This automated mechanism does not slow down. It pushes past established checkpoints with continuous, irreversible forward momentum, unless an outside force physically interrupts it. While this specific notice cycle plays out over a matter of weeks, the 10-year statutory collection clock runs constantly in the background. The IRS algorithm does not reconsider its position or grant unprompted extensions. It only advances toward asset seizure. The objective for any tax practitioner is to insert a legal wedge into this timeline. The absolute best point of entry is the CP502 stage. When a representative officially steps in, the system grants a temporary buffer, a hold placed on the account that pauses automated escalation while resolution is negotiated. The timeline is mathematically unyielding. The CP502 is the final juncture where the taxpayer retains active leverage over the pacing of their case. To accurately gauge the threat level of an IRS communication, you must read the exact statutory language printed on the page. Let's conduct a comparative analysis. Here is the CP501 next to the subsequent CP502. Look at the header on the CP501. It states plainly, "You have an unpaid balance." The tone is a neutral request for compliance. Now observe the CP502. The header explicitly reads, "Second demand for payment." That specific phrasing legally categorizes the taxpayer. The system has officially recorded them as intentionally non-responsive. The most critical numerical data point on this entire page is right here, the explicit 10-day deadline. This is a hard statutory trigger. It is a mandatory response window dictated by law. The system narrows its focus, locks onto the taxpayer's assets, and prepares to execute a final automated action. On day 11, the window for manual conversational intervention closes. The enforcement protocols queue up in the system. The jump from CP501 to CP502 is a legal reclassification that strips away the taxpayer's margin of error. Let's apply this to a practical model. David Martinez carries a $32,000 liability, and his dashboard currently shows an active CP502. The debt originated from a localized cash flow failure in his small business, resulting in unpaid payroll taxes. The immediate first action the practitioner must execute is filing Form 2848, the power of attorney. Submitting this form officially registers the representative with the IRS database, extending the client's operational buffer and pausing the automation. This diagram illustrates the 4 primary resolution frameworks fully deployable at the CP502 stage. Option 1 is the installment agreement, allowing for managed, structured payouts over a defined period. Options 2 and 3 are the offer in compromise, which reduces the total liability, and currently not collectible status, reserved for verified severe financial hardship. By deploying an installment agreement within the 10-day window, the practitioner secured a structured payout of $600 a month over 60 months. A skilled representative acts as a mechanical safety valve, successfully redirecting dangerous systemic pressure into a controlled, manageable pathway. Through rapid deployment of representation, a $32,000 emergency converts directly into a predictable operating expense. This graphic illustrates the divergence. At CP502, the sequence splits into 2 paths. Path A is inaction. Missing the 10-day window triggers CP503, queuing up aggressive levies and liens. Path B is immediate action. Professional intervention installs administrative holds, initiates negotiations, and secures structured agreements. If the statutory window closes without representation on file, the system locks its trajectory. The opportunity for a negotiated pause disappears. The CP502 functions as a system alert, signaling the transition to imminent, automated enforcement. For practitioners, identifying a CP502 dictates an immediate priority. File Form 2848 the exact moment you onboard the client. For taxpayers facing this exact notice, seek qualified counsel from an enrolled agent or CPA before the algorithm auto-generates the final demand. The scenarios presented in this material are strictly for educational purposes and do not constitute specific legal or financial advice. Outcomes vary by individual circumstance. Consult a qualified tax professional before taking action.